Today we have a crazy story of entitled parents demanding a tutor just go and rearrange their entire personal schedule for them. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, parent wants to shut down school over pronouns. Not my story, but my roommate's that was shared. My roommate is in their late 20s and been a preschool assistant at the local school since 18. They're well liked by children and parents alike, and never had any complaints in all the years of being there. Last week, they came home late looking defeated and tired, talking very minimal. I asked what happened, and here's what they said. The preschoolers were all getting ready for a field trip and needed parents' permission. Some filled out forms their kids took home, and others came to the school to discuss the trip. Entitled parent was one of the latter who arrived at the kindergarten class and spoke with them. The entitled parent said, "Sorry, is it Miss or Mrs.?" My roommate replied, "Mex, actually." The entitled parent said, "Right. Okay, thanks." It was a perfectly normal conversation that carried on. The kid got the form filled and everyone went about their day. Towards the end of their shift, they were called to the office to speak with the principal because a complaint was filed. He said that it was completely unfounded, but that he had to bring all complaints to attention with the involved staff. They were practically trembling in fear with their first complaint and even more puzzled when it was read off that the entitled parent wanted them fired from the school with a restraining order for teaching kids about pronouns and that girls weren't girls. She also demanded the school shut down if they weren't willing to protect children from the LGBT agenda that's being forced into the young minds. When they got to this part in the story, I was in complete shock and made a comment of, "Because shutting down the school will help kids even more?" They were also confused about the request and said the principal dropped the complaint. But I'd never heard of a parent demanding such things before in our town. We only have one elementary school, and they're a very good assistant that's loved by the preschoolers. I can't wrap my head around a parent wanting to take down both because a teacher goes by Mex instead of Miss. So I gotta be honest, it's actually the first time I've ever seen a story come along where somebody actually uses MX pronouns. I had to look up how you even pronounce it, and I'm not even sure if I am saying it right. The gist I got was Mex. That said, I've never understood the argument that because one person doesn't use the pronouns that one person would say are one of the two you can use, that all of a sudden this is like a great indoctrination scheme. The way the parent reacted here, I'm afraid they're gonna pull their kid out of school and they're going to, in air quotes, homeschool them and probably greatly limit their own kids' abilities. Why Teach wrote, "I remember when people wanted to fire teachers who wanted to be called MS Miss instead of MISS Miss. So I am tickled that now Miss is okay, but Mex isn't. I wonder what will be the issue in 50 years. I totally agree, of course, that such complaints show both entitlement and narrow-mindedness. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy entitled parent stories, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my parents did not care that I was in the hospital. I was experiencing excruciating pain during work on Monday. I handled the pain until I physically couldn't anymore and had to go to my boss all pale, clammy, and could barely stand and said, "I can't take the pain anymore, I have to go to the hospital." I do get stomach pains all the time, started getting more severe in March, but felt like hospital-wise Friday, but it went away and Monday. I went upstairs to my other boss's office, and all three of my bosses were helping me out while I was dripping sweat and close to passing out in this room. It took 46 missed calls between 5 different people until one of my parents answered the phone finally. 46. "I'm sorry that your sightseeing in Chicago is more important, but what?" They ended up calling 911 without my parents' permission instead. I'm a minor, so they just wanted to see what my parents wanted first. They ended up letting me choose finally, and I said, "Please call 911. My parents were angry. "I'm sorry that I caused you a bill and that's all you care about, and that I interrupted your sightseeing." In the end, my mom decided when she wasn't even there for me to go to AMA and made me leave. I didn't even get to see a doctor. Why did she do this? I was literally stretchered out of work. Does she not care? This was my 3rd hospital visit in the last 2 months for my stomach. I have serious issues and they do not care. I keep asking to get tested for things and they say no. Why is my health not important to them? What if I have something serious going on? OP said in the story that they're a minor. I don't know if this actually took place in the United States, but you would like to see OP reach out to like a school counselor or even just straight up threaten to so the parents take it seriously or actually go through with contacting child protection services. Your health obviously is the last thing you should neglect, and especially if you're experiencing real symptoms like that. 00Lisa00 wrote, "If you're a minor and your parents aren't caring for your health, call CPS. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll be taken away or put in foster care, but it will give you an advocate to make sure that you're getting the care you need. You could even ask the doctor to do it for you so it's not blamed on you." OP responded saying, "I have a doctor's appointment soon. Maybe I could bring it up to my doctor then?" This next story is entitled Parent Demanding That I Rearrange My Schedule for Tutoring the Next Day. I had an entitled parent who was a potential new client who passive-aggressively told me off because I was unable to do tutoring last minute. To sum up, basically, I negotiated the price, she agreed, then I asked what areas the child needs support with. She told me. Then she wanted me to do tutoring tomorrow. I already had plans and told her. I said I was able to do next week, but that it's impolite for me to cancel a visit for my friend last minute. This was their reply: "Don't worry about it. You haven't sounded confident and eager to tutor from the beginning." Wow, rude. This reminds me of those people that get rejected and say, "You're ugly anyway." 1,000,000% this is one of those situations where you hang up the phone and you go, "Thank God that happened, so I don't have anything to do with those people." Good luck to the kid, because those parents are not worth dealing with. Magdavis wrote, "It would only have gotten worse from there if you'd taken the job." OP responded saying, "Yeah, since I don't know her child's abilities yet, I can't provide resources for her yet. It's a shame that the pay was good, but she seems like one of those people who thinks that she can treat the help however she wants." Our next story is entitled Mother Scolds Me for Pushing Her Daughter Away. This story happened to me when I was about 10 years old. My family and I were at an amusement park, which we always visit for a day every year. We had a lot of fun with all the different attractions. The park also had smaller attractions for children that used park coins. I was always a very patient person and always avoided conflicts because I'm also very sensitive. As a child, politeness and respect were always the most important thing to me, whether child or adult. I always got on better with older people than children my age. In any case, there was a pirate attraction with 2 ships where several children could shoot cannons loaded with foam balls at each other. These cannons, however, required special coins to work. I had always been a pirate fan and was keen to try it out. We were never a rich family, and so I was taught how important saving is. These coins only cost €1 or so, but I didn't want to waste money, so I only got 3 coins and went into this attraction. I put a coin in the cannon and started playing with other children, me alone against 4 other children. They bombarded me with the other cannons and I defended myself as best I could, which wasn't really a problem. But one of the children was a little girl aged 6 to 8 who made it fun to manipulate me and pushed me and the cannon away so that I couldn't aim and couldn't really play. I asked several times not to push me, but the girl just didn't listen to me. Since she knew that the cannon had a timer, I felt harassed because I was alone against 4 children. The timer was almost at an end and it was also my second coin. The girl continued to pull and push me after several requests. I didn't want to use any more coins and wanted to take advantage of the time, so I grabbed the girl by the arm and looked her straight in the face and told her to stop. She burst into tears and ran out of the room. I was able to use the time again and play again. After a few minutes, a woman shouted at me. At first, I didn't notice her because I was too deep in my defense. When I realized that she was shouting at me, I politely asked what the problem was. The woman replied, "You hit and insulted my daughter." I was taken aback and said calmly that I didn't hit her and tried to explain my point of view to her. She didn't let me get a word in edgewise and shouted at me while the girl on her leg grinned maliciously. She said I should apologize immediately and leave her daughter alone and let her do what she wanted. She apparently thought I was a violent child. During the discussion, a sound was heard which signaled that the timer of the cannon had run out. Emotionally charged and feeling attacked from all sides, I left the room and in disappointment how people cannot respect each other. I then found my family and told them what had happened to me because I was already crying because I was being insulted for something I didn't do. Afterwards, I went to another attraction with my sister to distract myself for a moment. My father, a person with little patience, saw the mother and confronted her. I didn't notice and came back and saw my father and the daughter's mother having a heated argument. My mother didn't want to attract attention and asked my father to be quieter. The mother saw me as a liar and a bully and insulted me. A little later, the father came and we explained the situation. He was a very reasonable gentleman and apparently knew immediately who the liar was and scolded his wife and daughter. He apologized and took the mother and daughter to the exit of the amusement park. My mother was pretty embarrassed about this incident because we got so much attention and was angry with my father for reacting like that. I apologized for the situation getting out of hand. We tried to enjoy the day and I tried to lighten the mood, but it was in vain. Everyone in the family was ticked off for the day and we left the park to go home. I thought it was a shame that we lost our mood and fun just because of an argument, but the next year we went back and had a great time. I tried not to mention the story again until a few years later, but I will not forget this experience. I really feel for 10-year-old OP in this situation because if I were in OP situation, I wouldn't want to be like too rough on the younger kids, you know, some 6 or 8-year-old girl who clearly is just roughhousing a bit and trying to have fun, but is also kind of ruining the experience for you. I think I would be, even at 10 years old, pretty darn bummed that I made them cry and run off. Definitely would be furious about the entitled parent though. Park ESC wrote, "Your dad is a real one, and so is the other dad." OP responded saying, "Oh yes, that's him. I was bullied at school too, and I didn't want to go to school anymore and was done for." After several months of this going on, he suddenly told me in the evening that he would pick me up in his car the next day. The next day, there was a spectacle in front of the gate and lots of children were standing in a circle. As I walked through the crowd towards the parking lot, I saw my father warning my bully with his finger under his chin to stop. As I said, I'd been bullied for a long time and the teachers were informed about it, but they couldn't do anything. I was extremely surprised and happy that someone was there for me. The next day, however, I was called to the principal and was insulted for an hour because I told my father to deal with my bully, which isn't true. I didn't even know what he was planning. He just said he would pick me up. I was completely done for afterwards. But my bully left me alone because my father had a discussion with my mother afterwards. Everyone except my class teacher thought it was bad. She was also the one standing behind me, but her hands were tied too. But my time at school was not fun. Even today, whenever I go near the school building, I have to throw up. Our next story is, I feel like I'm losing my mind here and my parents are draining me. I feel like I'm losing my mind here. So I'm a 17-year-old female about to graduate, so it's a given that my parents are a little on edge. Not a little, no, they've thrown themselves off and hit every paranoia tree on the way down. So a little background, my parents are Hispanic, Puerto Rico, so therefore I am. They are also heavily Catholic, so therefore I am not. I am diagnosed with ASD and ADHD. Both attention and hyperactivity. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm about to graduate and that has made me take a step back and look at my life. I'm going to preface this by saying my parents are not bad people and I have been lucky enough to enjoy a nice, comfortable life. They are flawed and I love them, but I don't think their rules are a good fit for me or my mental health. Anyway, I'm going to be 18 soon and after I graduate, I plan to head off to college. So something my parents are starting to do is trying to make me become more independent. Which is not a bad thing in itself. The problem lies in their approach to this. I am the only girl in my family aside from my mother, so in a traditionally Hispanic Catholic household, I was the precious flower in need of protecting. I was never allowed to do anything. I couldn't go outside to play by myself. We lived on a military base, probably one of the safest places. I wasn't allowed to get dirty or sit with my legs up because I was a lady. These were just the small things. My father used to say to me, "Seen, not heard." He said this to all of us, my 2 brothers, one younger, one older, but to me, he usually accompanied that with this phrase, "Ladies must not be loud." I didn't cut my hair because my mom thought I looked better with long hair and dresses. I couldn't wear shorts except under my dress, and around this time, I was being severely bullied by my classmates. They would pull my hair, put glue in it, touch it without asking, drop books on my head, trip me, tear up my papers. And when I told my parents a month later, they got upset at me for not telling them earlier, and how it was my fault that it continued because I didn't fight back. I was 12 years old, so their solution was to tell me that every boy wanted to defile me, and how every girl was jealous and wished they could be me. So what happened? I started to feel that my self-worth was tied to my looks and virginity. I couldn't make regular friends, and the ones I did make, I couldn't hang out after school. Again, military base, West Point if you're interested. Super small, my friend lived down the road from me because my parents didn't trust them and didn't think I could make good friends. And every time we went out, and still to this day, my mother will make comments on my clothing, about how much it's showing, and when I was young and on the playground, I was always scolded because older men were looking up my dress and I was running around and acting childish. Still 12 here. My parents were sexualizing my body before I even had an idea about what the freak that meant. When I started wearing bras, my parents would get upset if we were on a trip and my brothers complained that I wasn't wearing one. Not at me, but that my brothers and I were fighting. Huh? How was that my fault? But in the moment and the moments after that, I felt bad that I was going through puberty. It all came to a head when I was 13, and I was SA by the girl I called my best friend, and I broke. For as long as I can remember, my self-worth came from my purity and my innocence, and that had been taken from me by the person I called my best friend. I had been bullied before, but now it felt worse. I started to notice that boys were commenting on my body, people would touch me in gym. I forgot a bra for gym one day and a girl took me aside and scolded me for tempting the boys, all while behind closed doors. My body was being taken from me without my consent. And once she cut me off from all my support systems, she told me she hated me and abandoned me. I had been so focused on what boys may do, nobody even seemed to look at what a girl may do. This is when I started trying to find myself. I realized I was bisexual, and this is when I started to argue with my parents more about going to church. How could I go to a place where everything told me I was a broken, damaged good, and what I wanted and what I felt didn't matter? I still respected their views and religion. I only wish they gave me that same respect. I didn't believe in God anymore, because how could I believe in a being who was said to be loving and kind when what happened to me was one of the most heinous things that could happen to a person? I begged and begged for anyone to come save me. I prayed and prayed, but nobody did. I can't believe in the idea of what God is when he lets so many things happen. Free will be damned. I've tried to tell my parents that I didn't want to go to mass because of my beliefs and what they've said about people like me. And my mother just says, "While you live in my house, it is my job to teach you about the Lord. But I'm not forcing you to go, but if you choose not to go, you will bear the consequences when I get home." So I go because I really have no other choice. My parents are the type to punish me until they've decided on a punishment. I can feel people stare at me. I've caught older men staring up my dress. I feel uncomfortable in my own skin and violated, but do my parents listen? No, because by setting my boundaries, I'm disrespecting them. I told them recently what happened to me, and the first thing my mom said was, "Why didn't you tell me?" My mom is a therapist, by the way, has her doctorate in marriage and family therapy. I would have thought that of all people, my mother would understand why I couldn't say anything. While I was being SA in my own home, the person told me, she said, "No one cares about you. You're alone. Look, here we are in your house and nobody's here to help." And when nobody did come, that cemented that thought process in my head. I finally gained the confidence to tell my mother and father, and my parents asked if I could try to call her or her mom to try and sort things out. I waited until we moved out of the state to say something. Why the freak would I want to call them? My father was upset that I didn't fight back, that I didn't say anything, and that he raised me better than this. This is the reaction they always have when I tell them something like this. Why didn't I do it sooner? My father has diagnosed PTSD and was abused by his mother. Does he like to talk about it? No. Did he tell anyone during the time it was happening? No. And what he said to me broke the sliver of trust I had in my parents. He told me after I had just told him how I was violated by the person I called my best friend, "I don't get why you lied to me. I have trauma, and some of it, monieka, which means doll, how fitting, probably is worse than yours." What the freak? He does have trauma, and that is valid, but no trauma is worse than another. Why don't I trust them? Why don't I tell them about when I'm touched, dehumanized, and violated? Because every time I do, they make it about them. How I hurt them, how I lied to them. And somehow, I'm always at fault. I gave them my trust and respect, and every time I try to set boundaries or share something with them, they spit in my face. Literally, my father spits a lot when he scolds me, and he has the habit of getting in my face. So when I tell him that he's spitting on me, I'm being disrespectful for interrupting him and talking back. They've told me that spitting in someone's face is one of the most disrespectful things that you could do. And all they've shown me is that I'm not allowed to be my own person, that I don't own my own body. They've told me this. Am I over what happened to me? Freak no. I still have trouble coming to terms with it. I keep thinking, what if I overreacted? What if I just imagine it? What if it's my fault? I have to work through it, but I won't be doing that with the people who throw my trust back in my face, this time covered in crap. I know they love me and I in turn, but that doesn't give them the right to do whatever they want because they're my parents. Because we're Hispanic, there is a hierarchy. Basically, anyone who's older than you is better and worth more as a person, and you have to bend over backwards for whatever they want. If you don't, you're disrespecting not only them, but the people who raised me too. That's how it'll be for the rest of my life. When my parents get older, it's expected that I take care of them full time, as well as financially support them. The only way I'll be higher than someone in the hierarchy is if I or my brothers have children. I am never going to treat my potential offspring like I was. Nobody deserves to feel like they mean less than the rest of their family just because they're young. Nobody should not have the right to privacy or setting boundaries. My parents can set the boundaries, but I can't because they're my parents and the rules don't apply to them. It's giving Nixon vibes. They have parental controls on my phone, drawing tablet, and TV. Family Link, the app for 12-year-olds. I'm 17. They go through my journal. They go through my history. They're angry they don't have biometrics on my phone. They get upset at my password because they can't remember it. I've given it to them. I changed it to a pattern to make it easier for them. They go through my room, trash, drawings, etc. They've removed my door because I closed it. Not locked it, closed it. I'm not allowed to lock my room. They don't trust me enough to chat with my friends on Discord. Some of them don't have a phone because I'm too naive, whatever the freak that means. I can't spend my own money and get in trouble if I use it to buy food. I can't go out with friends if my parents don't like them. They don't like a lot of them. They go through my sketchbook, and if they don't like what I drew, they ask me to shred it. If I refuse, they shred it themselves. It's usually just characters from a horror game or supernatural characters, i.e. Wendigos, zombies, giraffes. I don't draw furry you-know-what like they think that crap is nasty. They say it's too graphic and mature for me, the person who drew them. So I draw digitally and don't draw anything I like to draw. It's gotten to the point that when they threaten me with my phone, electronics, or whatever I've been hyperfixating on, I don't care. I don't become emotionally attached to anything because I know that it's at risk of being destroyed. Strict parents can teach you a lot, like how to recognize who's walking by the sound of their feet, or how to fake being asleep well enough to trick to military veterans. I've done this. Or my personal favorite, how to find a loophole in parental controls. Like just getting a second browser app and connecting it to a new email, then put parental controls on that email that control from your drawing tablet so that they can't get control of that browser. Or how to remotely control the family computer and put adult content in your parents' personal user history so they get upset and try to clear it, resetting their settings in their process without having to touch it and leave no trail. I don't watch it, but I do sometimes like to screw with them. Then they wonder how it got there. And if you get caught, just do the same thing a little differently. Strict parents aren't teaching their kids to be better than others. They're teaching them how to get better at hiding and finding loopholes. And then your kids don't trust you and you lose your relationship when they turn 18. It's my life. I'm not going to give it up just so I can cater and nanny to my parents' every whim. Don't get me wrong, if they need it, I'll take care of them. But I'm not going to do it because I have to and it's my obligation as their child to return the favor of them raising me. If I do, it will be because I want to and I love them. That may sound cold and heartless, but I didn't choose to be born. They chose to have me. And when they did that, it is their obligation to raise the child they brought into the world. If they didn't want me, they shouldn't have had me. Get an abortion or put me up for adoption, but I'm not going to sacrifice my life just because they got a participation award for parenting. I love my parents, and I know deep down that they don't know what they do is hurtful. No matter how hard I try, I can't explain my feelings and how my experiences affected me to people who didn't grow up with it, to people who don't want to understand because it challenges their worldview. There's a lot more, but this has gone on for way too long, and I don't think many people will read this whole thing, but if you did, thank you for reading my long rant, and it means a lot to me that people will listen. I think it says a lot about OP that they have such a rational mindset about everything. I mean, to me, OP comes across really grounded and fully understanding how things are, and honestly, I would think a lot of people may think OP's too forgiving of their parents. I think it would be completely understandable if OP had said at the end of this post, "As soon as I can, I'm just never talking to them again." Wife of Bath 1984 wrote, "I'm so sorry. I really think you need to consider going low or no contact when you leave for college. I don't know how realistic that is, but I'd recommend you do it as soon as you are capable. People like this don't change. It will only get worse as you get older." Sounds like you already know that. I can't wait for you to get out and have control over your own life. When I was a teen, I'm 39, I had a friend who would be excessively grounded for months at a time for minor infractions. She would just sneak out all the time. When you said strict parents just teach their kids how to find loopholes, that resonated with me. Watching my friend go through that, I promised myself that I would never put my kids through it, and I haven't. I think it also speaks to your parents' lack of trust in their own parenting. If they think they've done well in raising you, they should be extending trust and giving you more freedom. Instead, they tighten the reins. To me, that means they're insecure about how they raised you. It is much more a reflection of themselves than it is of you. I wish you all the luck in the world. Try to remember it won't be like this forever. One more year before you're a legal adult. OP responded saying, "I would like to say that first, I live in a heavily Mormon community, a lot of creeps here, and second, I would love to move out, but my life savings, every bit of money I have, is in an account under their name. I love my parents and we don't see eye to eye a lot, but they're not all bad. I'd like to think that I've had good experiences. I've gotten to do so much, and they are accepting, kind of my sexuality. My dad makes fun of it. My mom doesn't care as long as I get married and have a baby. I hope and pray that when I'm older, it'll be easier because they can't control me. My older brother moved out and he didn't go to college and join the military. When I asked my mom how she felt about it, she said, 'I'm so upset. I've failed as a parent. You're going to college. I can't have two failed children.' But their relationship did improve because they had no power over him. So I hope that they do change. And if they don't, I'll stick around until my younger brother leaves. I've been away from home in the hospital twice, and my younger brother told me that they started to turn their sights on him. If I can protect my brother, then I'm going to. He has so much ahead of him. He's skipping his junior year and graduating with me, and he does not need all that hate at 15 years old. Leaving them would mean leaving the whole family, and my heart couldn't bear not seeing them or cutting them out. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.